Oh, so in terms of getting started, and I hope that I saw that many of you have done this already. Some of you may not have. This website right here, this is the website for our online classroom. It is in a learner management system called Canvas, and we are just transitioning to Canvas from a different learner management system. So you are our first crew of students who are going to go through this. So when I say that we're all learning together, I mean we're all learning together. So if you run across something that doesn't make sense, don't assume you're doing it wrong. Reach out to me, reach out to Carly, reach out to Grace, and we'll try to sort it out. So this is the link that you will go to every day when you are ready to tackle a new assignment or pick up where you left off. Your username, and I know this is confusing, the screen asks for your email and your password. However, we don't do emails and passwords. We do first name dot last name. And that's the convention that we've been using for years. And instead of trying to convince our students to use their emails, and emails change, and is it this email, is it that email, it was a lot easier to just do first name dot last name. So first name dot last name is your username. If you have a complicated last name that has maybe 2 parts to it or a few initials, I've tried to be like, for example, Kathy, I'll use you as an example. Kathy Rivas Carballo is her last name. I did Catherine dot, and then Rivas Carballo went together as a last name. So if you have questions about how we broke you out first name to last name, just ask me and I'll look it up and I can let you know. Otherwise, we should all be able to go to this website, use our first name dot last name, and the password is time to learn, capital T, the number 2, learn, exclamation point. So let's all go ahead and give that a go right now. I will do it with you so that you can see how it works. Everyone has the MO100 available. So in order to enter the course, you just put your cursor right on it and you single click and it will take you into the course itself. Now I'm going to go ahead and pop in as a student so that my screen looks like yours. You will not have this little pink bar at the bottom of the screen. That's just letting me as a teacher know that I'm logged into the student view. So if I can't find the things that I think I need, that's why. So this is your home page. On the left-hand side, you should see a home button, and this will always take you back to this home page. You have an announcements button. We haven't really figured out how to do announcements here yet. We use Zoom, but you never know. I might figure this out at some point. And then you've got your modules. We're going to talk about modules in a minute, but that's where the meat and potatoes of the class is. But this home page has most of the information that you need to get started. So if we scroll down a little bit, you'll see that there are 3 buttons here in the middle of the page: a meet the team, a course overview, and a resources and support. So meet the team is just me and Carly and Grace. So just a little bit about each of us, and our email address is right there. So if you, for whatever reason, aren't able to Zoom chat us, Zoom chatting is probably the quickest, easiest, #1 way to get a hold of us. But in the event you need to send us an email, you can always email us. Our email addresses are right here in the Meet the Staff. So there's me, there's my dog, here's Carly, email address, and there's Grace and her email address. There's always going to be like a next and a previous button at the bottom of the screen, but often you'll be instructed to go back to a certain page, and those links will be right down here. You can either click here to go back to the home page, or you can return to the home page here. The course overview. This is a really great place to get your arms around exactly what's going to be asked of you in this course. So let's go ahead and explore that together. So much of this is captured on that 1-sheet handout that I sent you already, in terms of we're here to pass that MO100. 6 to 8 weeks is about average, but your mileage may vary, and you are looking at a 10-hour per week commitment. Everything started to make sense. So that's our 3-step process, and that's what we're going to go through again and again and again throughout the course. Picking the MO100 exam. So once you've completed all the units and the assignments and all that stuff, you are eligible to take a proctored certification exam. Our program covers the cost of your exam, pass or fail, and you don't have to pass it the first time. In fact, we encourage people to take a practice swing when they're nearing the end of their curriculum, just to see how it's going. So unlike many programs that will give you a free training, but they won't cover your testing costs, our training is free and our testing is free, and you can take the test as many times as you need to in order to pass. So let's talk a little bit more about the test. So next to continue. So how does the test actually work? So at the end of this course, like what are we aiming for? What do we have to do? So the test is a 1,000 point test. And before you panic, that is not 1,000 questions. That is 1,000 points. And the reason they make it 1,000 points is because they are really going to kind of finely slice how they grade test questions. So the MO100 is a 35 task test. It's called a practical application exam because it is not going to be true false questions or multiple choice questions. They're going to give you what they call projects, anywhere from 3 to 9 projects. Each project is a Word document, and you're going to get a real Word document to work on, and they will give you anywhere from like 1 to 7 or 8 tasks to do to each document for a grand total of 35 tasks. So they might say something like, here's a newsletter that we're sending out to our ski club. Please change the margins to narrow. And you're going to have to go and change the margins to narrow, and that's one task. Second task might be, go find this paragraph and insert the picture called skis, and then apply this text wrapping. And so they'll tell you actual Word things to do, and then you have to accomplish those things as asked. So 35 questions, you have 50, so 10 minutes shy of an hour. You have 50 minutes to complete all 35 tasks, which means less than 2 minutes per task. So you really have to kind of move along. So we always say that the test is maybe 80, 85% word skills, knowing the software inside and out, being able to go quickly. The other 15 to 20% of the test is time management, like having that ticking clock always in your head, knowing how fast time is going, staying conscious of it, leaving stuff behind if you're spending too much time on it, going getting all the points you can. So time management, problem solving is the other piece. They are famous for asking you things on the test that aren't directly in the curriculum, but are sitting right next door to something that you learned. They want to see if you can take that knowledge that you have and transfer it to a different problem. Well, I don't know how to do that exactly, but I know how to do this thing, which seems really related. So I wonder if I go to that place, am I going to see anything on the screen that kind of gets me to the place I need to be? So time management and problem solving are huge. You are not going to get an MOS certification just by knowing the software. Those are the other two big pieces of the puzzle. And then speaking of time management and problem solving, there are 6 what they call domains on the test. And a domain is just an area of knowledge. So they've basically broken all of Word out into 6 subjects, and they're called domains. And they have to do with inserting and formatting paragraphs, text, and sections is one of the domains. Managing tables and lists. So you can see on my screen here, we've got domains 2 through 6, and then number 1. Before I get into why number 1 is at the end of the list, I will. Look over here. All the domains are not represented equally on the test, right? So if there's 35 questions on the test, 20 to 25% of them are going to be on domain 2 skills, inserting and formatting text, paragraphs, and sections. Another 20 to 25% of them are going to be on domain 1 skills, managing documents. So that's 40 to 50% of the test questions are going to live in just those 2 domains alone. So if you're getting to the end of your time with us and you are in a time crunch and you've got to study and you're trying to figure out what to study, if you study domains 1 and 2, that's going to be like center mass. That's going to get you the most bang for your buck. The next 2 are domains 3 and 5, managing tables and lists and inserting graphic elements. Those are 15 to 20% of the test questions apiece. So 30 to 40% of the test questions are going to be on those 2. And then the final ones, domains 4 and 6, creating and managing references and managing document collaboration. That's essentially tables of contents, captions, and track changes. 10 to 20% of the test questions max. So 4 and 6 are not going to be heavily represented on the test. If we're talking about 35 questions, there might be 2 to 3, maybe 4 questions in total about both of those domains. So it's really important for you when you're thinking about how to study, which questions to answer, which questions to pass on, to know that all the domains are not going to be equally represented on the test. You're going to get more questions about certain things and fewer questions about others. So the last thing here, why is domain 1 at the end of the list? The way Microsoft wrote the curriculum, they put domain 1 at the beginning, but as different curriculum companies and teachers have test-driven this test, we've realized that domain 1 skills are much easier to master after you've mastered the other ones. So domains 2 through 6, start there. And then at the end, we go back and we cover domain 1, and things go a lot quicker and make a lot more sense. So when you get into the curriculum, the first assignment is going to be on domain 2. So I want to be really clear about that. When you get into the curriculum and you click that first assignment and it says domain 2, and you're like, what about domain 1? Where did I miss it? So that's why I'm hitting this so hard. You didn't miss it. It's coming at the end. Any questions about that real quickly, that whole piece about how the test is constructed, how the domains work? Okay, so each domain on the test, there's 6 of them. Each domain is like a unit of study, right? So there's 6 chunks that we ask people to study to pass the test. Each domain, each learning domain is made up of learning objectives. And a learning objective is just the thing you need to be able to do after you learn this lesson, right? Pretty simple. So there's a list right here, the MO100 Test Objectives and Skills list. This is what Microsoft developed. This is exactly what's going to be on the test. When you see a link like this in an assignment, if you mouse over it, you'll see you get the link finger. If you click the name of the file, it will bring up a preview for you. So I'm going to show you how this works. So this is the objectives list. So domain 1 is about managing documents. There are 1, 2, 3, 4 learning objectives inside domain 1. Navigating within documents. These are the 4 skills that are included in navigating within documents. So that first lesson of that domain 1 is going to be called navigating within documents, and it's going to teach you these 4 things. The next lesson is going to be called format documents, and formatting documents includes these skills. A third lesson is about saving and sharing documents. It's going to include these skills. And the 4th lesson is going to be called inspecting documents for issues, and it includes these 3 skills. The reason that this is here is because the vocabulary is so important. When you are getting ready to study or to take the test, it's really great to come back here and look at this list and say, this is all the stuff that I need to know. And then ask yourself, are any of these words unfamiliar? Chances are great you might know how to do some of this stuff. You just don't know that Microsoft is going to call it that. So it's worth going back through the list, reminding yourself of what percentage of the test questions are going to be on this topic, looking through this vocabulary and reminding yourself, do I know that? Do I need to go back and look at any of that stuff? What else do I need to know? So the good news is, well, I should say the bad news is there's a lot of stuff on here. There's a lot of stuff that we are going to learn over the next 6 to 8 weeks. The good news is there are no surprises. Like, this is it. This is what's on the test. No one's going to sneak anything up on you. These are the things you need to know. So once you've previewed this, there's a download button right here if you want to have a copy of this on your own computer that you can have whenever you want. There's also a close button right here. I'm going to use this to close out. And then we're back to the Canvas page. Remember, the link right here is what I clicked to open up that preview. There is a download button right next to it. So if you want to jump straight to the download and have that file for your own, you are more than welcome. So that's how the test works. That's how the whole course is constructed. We are going to study 6 domains. We're going to have some context projects salted in there, and then it's test taking time. Any questions about how that works before we move on? Okay, I'm going to go back to the home page real quickly, and we're going to cover one last chunk of information before we dive in. Resources and support. So now that I've hit you with the bottom line, here's all the stuff you need to know before you can pass this test. What are some resources and some support you can reach out for throughout the course of your class? So resources and support. The first thing we want to talk about here is tracking your hours. So one of the things you're going to be responsible for on a daily basis is filling out this little time tracker. This lets us know when you are studying on your own, right? Like I already said, if you go to a teacher-led instruction, we are going to take attendance for that. I'm going to know that, for instance, that you put in 3 hours today for our learning, for our onboarding. So those 3 hours are going to count toward your weekly total. If you go home tonight and you log into Canvas and you start poking around and you start figuring some stuff out, you would want to submit a time tracker for those extra hours so that we can keep track of how many hours you're spending studying by yourself. The hours we take attendance for plus your home study hours combined have to be at least 10 per week. So we take attendance on the teacher-led hours. This time tracker form right here is how you let us know about all of your other hours. So when you click this form, it opens up a new tab that looks like this one. It's super simple to fill in. You put in your email, your last name, your first name. You put in the date you did the work. Ideally, it would be today, right? Like I'm finishing up my time together and I put in 2.5 hours. So I'm going to click on this little calendar and I'm going to mark today as the date. If you forgot and you're doing yesterday's hours, right? Like I wake up in the morning and I'm going to do my independent study hours. And I'm like, shoot, I didn't do yesterday. It is okay to come back to this time tracker. And even though it's not the day you did the studying, you can enter that day. You can go back. So like if today is the 26th, but I'm trying to submit work I did on the 25th or the 24th, I can do that. It'll let me, then that's fine. This question, what time did you start training? It's a kind of a throwaway, but we are using it just to try to see if there are any trends, like when students are most active with their independent study hours. And if we see a trend, like maybe most people are working between 1 and 4 in the afternoon or 6 and 9 p.m. or, whatever, maybe we can staff support hours during that time so that we are available to students when they're working. But right now we're just collecting the information. So if you can just generalize what time you started the studying and we know how long you studied, then we can kind of get an idea of when people generally like to work. So then how many hours did you work today? This is a two-parter. Whole hours go up here. So if I worked 2.5 hours, I would say 2 hours. And then down here is partial hours. And because all of this is feeding a spreadsheet, we could not do 15 minutes, 30 minutes, and 45 minutes. We need to do 1/4 of an hour, 1/2 an hour, and 3/4 of an hour. So just round to the nearest 1/4 of an hour. So 2.5 hours would be 2 here and 5 here, right? So let me just fill this in so you can see what this looks like. Susan Seiferth at moundsviewschools.org. My last name is Seiferth. My first name is Susan. I'm going to do these hours for today. And I'll say I started at 1 o'clock p.m. And let's say I'm going to do I'll say 2.5 hours. That's fine. 2.5 hours. And I'll submit. And I get this. Now, if I hit submit and immediately I think, oh no, I did it wrong. Oh shoot, I have to fix that. There's an edit your response button right here. So I could go in here, it'll open up my form again, and I can change this. I can say, I didn't work 2.5 hours, I worked 2 3/4 hours. And then I can hit submit, and my response has been edited. So if you make a mistake, you can always edit your response. Once you have edited your response, or once you have entered your response, let me see if I can bring, oh, not this one, this one. Sorry, I'm going to bring this over here in just 1 second. There it is. All right. So once I submit my form, I'm going to get a Google form, a receipt from Google Forms. I can click on it, and it is going to tell me that I submitted for the 26th, 2 hours, 2.5 hours. Notice I get a second email right here that says, oh yeah, you changed that to 0.75 hours. So you're going to get a receipt from Google. That's what they use your email address for, to say you worked on this day, or you said you worked on this day for this many hours. Unfortunately, we don't at this time have any kind of really good mechanism for you to run a report and pull out how many hours you have spent working in our software. This is the best we've got. So it is your responsibility to keep track of your weekly hours. Your Google receipts are going to be really helpful. Notice there is an edit response button right on the email. So if you are like, oh, I'm looking at this, that's not right. I should have, that should have been on the 24th, not the 26th. You can click here also to edit your response. And you can come back in here and say, oh yeah, that wasn't the 26th. That was actually the 25th. And then you hit submit. So you can continuously edit these forms. Let me pop into the chat here, see what we've got. Victor wants to know, great question. Does it matter if he submits a few sign-in forms in the same day? It does not. Like if you are catching up, you're like, oh, I forgot to do like Monday and Tuesday, now it's Wednesday, yikes. What you do need to know is that we track your hours from Sunday through Saturday, right? So we're looking to get a grand total of 10 hours between first thing on Sunday morning to midnight on Saturday. So make sure that when you fill in that date, that the date is correct. So even if I'm filling out 12 forms today and I'm going back 2 weeks, make sure you're backdating those hours correctly. If you really get in a hole, like you really get behind, like I know that some folks are like, it's been a month, I haven't submitted my hours at all, I'm so sorry. You can do what we call an hour dump, which is where you pick a day in the correct week, and then you just do one time tracker for all the hours you did that week. So we're not slicing it so fine that we need to know every single day exactly when you work. We're looking more for a grand total for the week, and it needs to be registered in the week that you did those hours so that we can give you credit in that week. Otherwise, we're going to see 1 week with like 45 hours in it and 3 weeks with nothing. And if we're running these reports every week, you're going to start getting like emails from us like, I see you're not working. I see you're not working. What's going on? Are you okay? So if you do end up having to backdate hours, make sure that you are at least getting the hours you worked into the correct week using that date field. Oh, another good one. If for some reason you aren't able to attend an in-person class, like we have this learning circle once a week that we want people to attend. First things, we really tried to make it flexible so that folks could squeeze it in. We have one at 8 a.m. on Mondays, one at noon on Tuesdays for the lunch hour crowd, and one at 7 p.m. on Thursdays if the evenings are better for you. So, and you don't have to pick the same one every week. You can like hop around. But if for whatever reason your schedule is just such that you cannot do it 1 week, that's fine. Just reach out to Carly, to me, to Grace, and let us know. If it becomes every week or most weeks, then we're going to have to figure something else out. But occasionally everyone misses a class, and that's okay. Just let us know. Okay, so that's the sign-in form. Once you open that sign-in form, oops, sorry, here we go. Once you open that sign-in form, we encourage you to favorite and bookmark that sign-in form, right? So if you click that form, opens up a new window for you. Again, this is your favorites button. You can favorite that little time tracker, put it on your bookmarks bar or wherever you'd like to keep it, and then you can always get back to it super easily. I'm going to close out of those. So that's your time tracker. If you are wondering, what do I put on the time tracker? I know Susan said something about independent study hours versus instructor-led training hours. Like, how do I know which is which? There is a handy little table down here for you to figure out which is which. So what do I put on my time tracker? Those are anything you're doing in the curriculum, in watching skills videos, completing assigned exercises, completing context projects, peer reviewing context projects for other people, discussing coursework and content with fellow students on the Zoom channels, that counts. Typing practice totally counts. And then these two surprise people sometimes, but studying outside of the assigned curriculum, but still on Microsoft stuff. So if you have a library card and you log into the Udemy or the Learning Express tools they have there to learn Microsoft stuff, that counts. If you go to GCF Global, which is another free online resource to brush up on your word skills, that counts. If you're trying to learn Microsoft stuff, it counts for us. And then the last one is independent practice of your new skills. So if you watch a couple of videos, you're like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. This is going to fix my resume. And you go out and you play with your resume for a couple hours, you are applying your word skill to some kind of practical tool, and that counts. So don't rip yourself off on hours. Be generous. If you have a question like, does this count? Doesn't it count? I'm not sure. Reach out to me, Carly, or Grace, and we can help you figure it out. But what stuff definitely is not for you to put on your time tracker? Attending a Microsoft Skills workshop in person or over Zoom. Metro East Career Pathways offers usually 2 workshops a week on Microsoft stuff. Word Basic, Intermediate, Advanced, Excel, same thing, PowerPoint, Intro to Microsoft Office, Intro to Google Apps. If you're attending one of our workshops, we will keep track of those hours for you. If it's a Microsoft workshop, it counts toward your required 10. So if you do 7 independent study hours and then you attend a 3-hour workshop, you're good. Attending a learning circle, those are usually anywhere from half an hour to an hour. We will keep track of that time for you. Attending open lab hours at Harmony or Mounds View. And I'm going to show you how to get to those in just a second. So if you come into one of our buildings and you work with one of us instructors, even if you don't spend a lot of time with us, you just are in the lab, we'll collect those hours. So those count for, we'll count those. Or interacting with a teacher or a facilitator one-on-one. So if you have a support question and you make an appointment with me and we, 2 of us spend 45 minutes going over tables or column breaks or something together, I will track those hours. If you were with me in real time, I've got the attendance. So speaking of help and support, this is a handy little table that explains how and where you can get support. The Z means we're available for a Zoom appointment. The H means we're available for help in person at the Harmony Learning Center. This is a little map if you're wondering where that is. MV is in-person help at the Mounds View Adult Education Center. And those of you who've taken my in-person classes, you know exactly where that is and where I am. So Carly and Grace are available for Zoom support from 9 to noon, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. They're available for Zoom support or in-person help at Harmony from 1 to 3:30 on Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays. I am available on Tuesday and Thursday afternoons for Zoom support or 9 to noon for Zoom or in person at Mounds View. So this is a handy little table that helps you figure out if I just want to come into an open lab, you know, I've got to get some work done and I'm at a stopping point. I need someone to help me over it. I want Carly or Grace or Susan to help me over this hurdle. Come see us at an open lab, making a Zoom appointment. We'd be happy to help. Last little thing here is the learning circles. We are requiring our students to attend 1 learning circle per week. As we just mentioned, occasionally everyone's going to have a busy week and not make it. But if you could please make an effort to get to 1 per week, we have learned that students who connect with their peer groups in this intentional way at least once a week are far more likely to eventually pass their certification test and move on. The students who don't attend the learning circles regularly are the ones who tend to fall away from the program. It's not an absolute rule, but in general, that is what we have discovered. Connecting with your peers, kind of comparing where you are, staying accountable, that's going to help a lot. The Learning Circle sign-up sheet is here. You click on it, it just opens up a sheet that looks like this one. We are in October already. So this is where you come to sign up for a Learning Circle. So for example, this is this week, right? So the week of the 24th through the 28th, we do a Learning Circle on Monday from 8 to 9, Tuesday from 12 to 1, and Thursday from 7 to 8. You'll see that I keep track of how long they are and I record that attendance. So these folks all got an hour and 15 minutes of attendance on Tuesday because they were with me at the Learning Circle. Next week, if you can believe it, is November already. So to sign up for November, you just move over to the next tab and here's the week of 10/31 through 11/4. Monday 8 to 9, Tuesday 12 to 1, Thursday 7 to 8. So that is where you do the signing up. We have this open through December. We will update our worksheet later in December for next semester. And again, I encourage people to bookmark the Learning Circle spreadsheet. Where did I put that? In Canvas? That's not where I want it. I'm actually going to remove that. Okay. Okay, any questions about these resources? The time tracker, how to get support, how to sign up for a Learning Circle? People are good so far?
Yeah, it's clear, Susan.
Good, excellent. So that's what lives here in this chunk. Our email addresses, what this course is all about, all of those skills, learning objectives, all the stuff, the structure of the course, and then how to get resources and support. Let me go back into student view here. This is going to be helpful. So once you've familiarized yourself with all that, if you scroll down the page a little bit, you've got the course modules right here. And this is where we actually do the work of the course. So let me show you how these work. So once you're ready to get started, you're going to go ahead and click the course modules button. And that takes you to this screen. So remember, I said that we were going to start with domain 2, right? we've got just a few orientation pieces up here. So let's go ahead and work through. The very first one is called Getting Started. So if you are logged in, let's go ahead and be here together. So you can look at it same as I do. So again, I was on this home page. I scrolled down to the course modules button right here. And that opened up this one here. Oh yeah, I did not create this website. Good question though. This is a learning, it's called a learner management system, and it's called Canvas. And it is really popular at the community college and the higher education levels, which is why we picked it, so that if our students go on to some kind of university or community college or whatever, this learning environment starts to feel real familiar to them. But yeah, this is our learner management tool. Okay, so getting started. Under getting started, this is the before you begin bit. So before you get started, we ask our students to create a folder where they are going to keep their coursework. As you might imagine, in a Microsoft course, there are going to be times when you're going to need to download files and work on those files. So we like folks to have a place where they can keep that stuff and some resources. So the first thing you're going to do is create a student folder on your computer. So in order to do that, super easy, you just open up your Files Explorer right here. And I'll go ahead and put one on my desktop. So I'll navigate to my desktop. Here I am on my desktop. I can create a new folder, and I'm going to call it student, because that's what the software that you're going to use refers to it as. They're always going to say things like, store this in the student folder, download this to your student folder. And I find instead of swimming upstream and trying to remember what I called it, I just call it the student folder. So I put a student folder right there on my desktop, ready to go. If you are more of a right-click kind of person, you can always minimize everything, find your bare naked desktop, and right-click and say New Folder. And then you can create a student folder right there on your desktop. Now, I, of course, have two desktops, and I put it on the wrong one, so I'm going to move it over here. There's my student folder now. Grace was just about to mention the right-click. Absolutely. Because the right-clicking is awesome. Okay, so we have a student folder now on the desktop ready to hold our stuff. I don't care if you put it on the desktop. You can put it wherever you want. You just need to have a place where you are going to keep all your stuff. Okay, so the first thing we do is we create the student folder where we're going to keep stuff. The next thing we're going to do is we are going to download these 3 resources. And you may or may not use them, but it's nice to have them if you want them. So the student workbook is just a big old workbook full of fill-in-the-blank exercises and hands-on practice, backing up the labs that we do so that you can do them with the follow-along files if you want to. So in order to download it, I just click on the download button here, and I tell it where to go. I'm going to go to my desktop. I'm going to find that student folder, and I'm going to download it right there. And this is it. It is 102 pages, and it's just got a bunch of things in it that you might want to know about. Most of your exercises will look like this. You watch the videos and you fill in the blanks, but there is some nice information up here about how long each video is that you need to watch for each domain. So once you download it, you can go ahead and close it. And then we are also going to download the glossary. And we'll download the keyboard shortcuts. And these are just a really complete document that shows you all of the keyboard shortcuts that Word 2019 has to offer, which is nice. So is anyone having any trouble getting those to download? The other thing that is listed here is the follow along files. Anytime there's a workbook assignment that says, hey, download this file and then do these things to it, you're like, where do I get that file? They live here. So I'm going to click this follow along files button. This is just a shared Google Drive that I have with follow along files. Right now I've got the Word files in here. The MO200 are the Excel follow along files. But if you're in the MO100 class, which is the Word class, and you're looking for a file in, let's say, domain 3, you would come here. You're going to bookmark this so you can get back here anytime you want. And you're going to open the follow along files for MO100. Say we need to go to domain 3, there it is. And let's say we need to download the 311 class schedule file. They're going to have you work on that one. You just mouse over it and you right click and you download. And you're going to download it to the student folder, right? Because that's where we keep everything. Go to my desktop, go to the student folder, download this file. I click save, and then I know where to go to open it up when I want to use it. So that's the first thing we do when we're getting started is we download these files and we bookmark the location of the follow along files. This assignment is always going to be here. So you always have access to this link for downloading these. So if you're feeling too much pressure right now to download a bunch of stuff, don't worry about it. It's okay. They are still here. But bookmarking this link is a great idea. Okay, so I'm going to pause there, see how things are going for folks. One thing I did want to mention is that in this follow along files folder that we have, you'll notice the student workbook, the keyboard shortcuts, and the glossary are also there. So if you lose them for some reason, you can download them from here also. How are we doing? Do folks need a second? Should I pause, let people catch up for a minute? Andy has a great, but 1 second, Andy has a great question. He says, do we need to use Word 2019 specifically? That's a great question. Right now, the version of the Word test that we are delivering, the most recent version that exists, is called 365 apps/2019. So 2019 and newer, if you have 2019, 2021, the 365 apps, any of those are absolutely current, up to speed, ready to go. If you have 2016, you're going to be missing a few bells and whistles that the test wants you to know about, but largely you'd be okay. Anything older than 2016 is probably not going to work as well as you'd hope. Does that help? I know this says 2019 all the time. That's just what the curriculum calls it, but 2019 and newer is all fine. Okay, great. Liz, you had a question.
Oh, I was just going to comment when you said, does anybody need a minute? I got behind a little bit when I was creating a student folder.
Sure.
So I think I created a new folder. I haven't named it yet, but I thought after 4 o'clock, I'll go in and try to download. So I'm okay. I am a little bit behind, but.
I know this, like I said, it's like drinking from a fire hose, right? I'm just going to throw all this information at you. But the good news is you guys know where to find me. So in the event that after 4 o'clock, you're like, okay, I need to just Zoom chat me. I'm around. We'll figure it out.
Okay.
So the idea is the very first thing that we do is we are going to create that student folder and we're going to tuck a few things in there that might help us out later. And we're going to bookmark that folder where all of the class files are that we might need to use for assignments. You can always come back here and work on this at your own pace, and that is fine. So at the bottom of the screen, there's always a previous button to go back to the lesson before this one, and a next button to go on to the next button or to the next lesson. So I'm going to go to the next one. This is our Getting Started survey. This is the one that I included kind of a mini version of it on the back of that sheet that I sent you earlier today. And it sent many people into a small panic because they're like, I didn't do any of this stuff. It's okay. We're going to work through this together right now. So if you're with me, go ahead and click the next button. And there is a little survey that we get to take before we start the class. There are only 12 questions on here. We're going to go through them together. So question number 1 is I have taken a typing assessment and my typing speed is. I know that Carly she prioritized other things. So many of you may not have taken a typing test yet, that is okay. It's okay here to, let me see what I put in here, to generalize. So I type less than 20 words per minute, at least 20 words per minute, or more than 20 words per minute. Just take your best guess. The reason that we picked 20 words per minute is that we've discovered that people who type slower than 20 words per minute are typing slowly enough that they are thinking really hard about where they're putting each finger, which means that when test time happens, you're diverting brain power to your typing instead of your typing just being a skill that you have and you can focus on the test. So during the course of our time together, if you're typing less than 20 words per minute, we'd really love to see you continuing to work on that typing.com and your typing skills to get that up so that when you test, you're not thinking about your fingers. You are just able to engage with the material. So take your best guess at what your typing speed is. Question number 2, I have passed all of the following North Star digital literacy assessments. Some of you did this at your ABE site back in the day, back at, wherever you engage with. Some of you have discussed with me or with Carly or with somebody else that you can do this with us later. These are pretty short. They are like 10, 15-minute quizzes, and you have to get an 85% or better. So if you have taken them, say yes. If you haven't taken them, say no, and then we'll know who to follow up with. Question number 3, I have taken the CASAS reading test. And that is like the hour-and-a-half-long test that you probably made you feel like you were back in high school again, where you read a paragraph and then you have to answer questions about what the main idea of this paragraph was. Some of you have taken this at your ABE site a long time ago. Some of you have taken it more recently. If you've taken it, click yes. If you haven't, you can click no. And then if you click a no here, then one of us will probably be following up with you to just check on it, let you know either you took it or let's schedule a date for that. Kathy says she's lost. Totally fine. So Kathy, are you logged into the Canvas screen? So you're at the MECP instructure.com, you're in the course? Okay, so if you click on the modules button right here, click on the one that's called the MO100 Getting Started Checklist. And then that should take you to a little quiz. Okay, cool. So again, question number 1, typing. Question number 2 is about those North Star digital literacy assessments. And I think Kathy, you and Liz can come in and do those with me if you haven't done them yet. I think Kathy might have done them already as part of your onboarding. But Liz, if you want to come in and do them with me at Mounds View sometime, that's totally fine. Yes, Andy, if you've taken a TABE, I think that we can count that as your CASAS. I'll check with Carly on that, but I'm pretty sure it counts. So yeah, you could say yes to that one. And then the next ones of these are just kind of understanding questions. I agree to spend at least 10 hours per week working on this course. Sometimes people are like, what if I get to 10 hours and I want to study some more? Great. That is why we put in the at least language. You are more than welcome to just fly with it. Make it your part-time job. The more you study and the more often you study, the more things are going to be retained. But we've discovered that 10 hours per week is kind of like the cliff, where if people study less than 10 hours per week consistently, they're not touching the material often enough to make progress. And they spend their time, their 5 or 7 hours or whatever it is that they can give us, just relearning the same stuff again and again and again. So if you find that 10 hours per week is really hard and you're not quite getting there, it may not be a good time for you to do this course right now. So 10 hours is the minimum that you can spend in order to make progress. So you'll want to, click yes, of course, but if after a week or two you realize it's just not working for your life, we can absolutely have a conversation. So number 5, I understand that I'm required to attend 1 learning circle per week. And again, we all understand that you can't make it every week, but make a sincere effort to get there every week that you can and let us know when you can't. That'll be great. Okay, now we get into the specific to you questions. Where will you complete your 10-hour per week commitment? Are you going to be working mostly at home on your own computer? That should say own, not my on computer. Mostly at my local adult education center, like going to Harmony or Mounds View or wherever your ABE center is and working on their computers. Mostly on a public computer, like a library or a career force center, or there's an other option here. Now, I work mostly on my own computer, so that's the one I'm going to click. We're just going to use this information so that we know how to help you best. When you connect with us on Zoom, we'll know, are you working at home? Are you at a library? Do you have a PC? Do you have a Mac? What are we working with? Speaking of that, question number 7 is, I will be working on what kind of device do you have? A PC is almost all of the laptops, unless it's a Mac. So if you're working on a Mac, it's a Mac. If you're working on something else, it's probably a PC. The other option that we see a lot is a Chromebook, which looks like a laptop, but it's actually it doesn't store any information, doesn't have a big processor, it only connects to the internet. So a PC, a Mac, a Chromebook, and then if you've got some other device that you're using, let us know. I work on a PC. Just going to pause here real quick. How are folks doing? People keep it up? Number 8 is, do you have Microsoft Office installed on the machine you'll be using? And the reason we ask this is that Microsoft has been trying to keep up with Google lately over the last couple of years. And so they've introduced Office 365, which is a browser-based version of their software. So some people have been using Word, PowerPoint, Excel, Outlook in a browser tab, like kind of a light version of the software in a browser tab. So we always like to ask if they've got Microsoft installed on their machine. And if they do, you would see it by clicking this little start button in the lower corner of your screen. And if you have it installed, you would see it. Like in the E, you'd see Excel. Under the O's, you'd have Outlook and Office, OneNote maybe. Under the P's, you would see PowerPoint, maybe Publisher. You'd have Word and the W's down here. So if you have the software installed on your machine, you're going to see it there. If you don't see them there, but you use Word, it'll probably be in a browser tab. So if it's installed, click yes. If it's not installed, say no. And then for the people who do have Office installed, which version are we using? And I should have a 2021 tucked in right here, but I don't. I'll have to fix that. If you're wondering how to tell what version of Office you have on your computer, the easiest thing to do is just pop up a Word document or any kind of Office program. If you click the File tab, there's an Account button in the lower left side, and it will tell you what version of Office you have right here. So I'll show you that again. If you do have Microsoft installed on your machine, right, and you can get down here and you can open Excel or PowerPoint or Word or Outlook. I'll just open Word, right? Once you have one of the programs open, you can go to the File tab. There's an Account button in that blue sidebar, and it will tell you, right now I'm running Office 365. So anybody need a hand with that? This is a great time for us to share screens and get it all sorted out. So I have Office 365. Okay, let's pop into the chat here. And if you don't have Microsoft installed, that is okay. We're going to show you the next thing we can do here. So if you don't have Office installed, the next question is, do you use the free Office apps that operate in a browser window? And those look like this. Oh, I'll do this. Open that in a new tab. There we go. So here's office.com. If I open a Word document, here's Word in a browser tab. See how it's operating here in a browser tab? This is a fully featured Word document that I have installed on my machine. Looks like this, right? This is Word in a browser tab. And many people use this because it's free and they can sign up just using an Office account. And they can get most of what they need to study for the test here. Like 85% of what you need is going to be here. So if you don't have Office installed, you would click no here, or I'm sorry, you would click no up here. And you would go here to question number 10. Do you have the free Office app? If you click yes, then that's what you're using. Great. If you don't, click no. If you don't have Office installed and you don't have an office.com account yet, this is the time to create one. You just click this button, this tab that we have here, and I think you might have to right click and open it in a new tab. Otherwise, it's going to want to navigate you away from this screen. And then I'm going to log out here. And it should give you a sign in or create an account button here. And you can create a free account just by giving them an email address, and then you're good to go. Let me see if it'll get me there. Okay, here we go. Sign in, or let's create an account, I believe. So create an account, sign into your account. So it should be a pretty easy little process to create a free account, but it is nice to have that option so that you can do most of your assignments from the computer that you're using without having to buy or install any software. So go ahead and the one little piece though that we like to make really plain is that the free version is nice, but it's not fully featured. It's not the whole software. So there are going to be some things that you're going to need to study that aren't included in that software. So there will be some assignments that you can't do using the free version. And if that's the case, you need to understand that you may need to come into your library or adult education center to complete some of those assignments that require the whole software. Shouldn't be too many, but there are one or two things. And then the last one here. Now, this is just for folks who have Office 2019 or newer installed on their machines, and they are working on a PC, not a Mac. If those two things are true, you may want to download this Gmetrics software to your machine that will let our curriculum interact with your version of the software on your computer to create this hands-on in-app experience where you can work on the new skills directly in the Word products on your own machine. If you want to do that, that link is here, and it just looks like this. So Gmetrics is the curriculum resource that we use for our skills videos and our labs. You do not need to download this, but if you have the software installed on your machine and you want to have this hands-on experience, you can do this. You can make this decision later. This little link is always going to be available to you. So notice the two options here are I successfully installed the Gmetrics SMS software, or I didn't do it and I'm going to use the in-browser version of the practice assignments. Our hands-on practice, our labs, come in two flavors. The I have the software installed flavor and the I want to do this in a browser flavor. So there's absolutely no need to have the software installed to do the labs. You can do them this other way. So go ahead and pick the one that works for you. And if you do install this software, it is just a download, and then you click the exe and you open it and it does its thing. And then when you're done answering these questions, you can click submit the quiz. And we have set the quiz so that you can retake it, which is fine. And then once everyone gets done with that, we're going to pause for about 10 minutes, take a break, let you go to the bathroom. Okay, so we were in the course modules here when we left off. So I'm going to go ahead and dig back in here. And we had just finished up the Getting Started quiz. There are two other pages in here for you guys to review. And I'll just flip through them super quick. but I don't want to spend a lot of time on them today because I'm going to go into the actual first lesson of the course with you guys and then walk you through that first assignment together. These are intended for when you go back and you do your first assignment by yourself. In the geometrics assignments here, this just tells you what kinds of assignments there are. So geometrics is our curriculum resource. It is the outside resource that holds our skills videos and our labs and our domain assessments, the workbook assignments. So when you get an assignment, it's going to be hosted by geometrics. So when you hear that word being thrown around, that's what we mean. You do not ever have to log into geometrics. Geometrics is not a place where you need to go and log in and find your assignment. If you have a geometrics assignment, it's always going to be inside Canvas. You'll just click the button in your class and it'll take you directly to the assignment you need to do. So 4 kinds of assignments in geometrics: video labs that you'll watch, video lessons you'll watch, labs that you'll do, which is the hands-on practice piece. Workbook assignments. Now, workbook assignments are more optional. I put them in there for people who want to kind of continue to practice and reinforce those new skills, but generally they are just fill in the blank vocabulary to kind of go along with the videos. So in the videos, you'll hear the line and there's the new word, tuck it into your workbook. Or they are downloadable versions of the lab that you can do on your computer. So the workbook assignments are optional. If you want to do them, if you like them, knock yourself out. If you don't like them, you can always skip them. You won't be missing anything. And then there are domain end assessments, which are like mini tests that cover only what's in this unit that we've been covering. I'm going to show you how to do a video lesson, but if you are doing your next video lesson and you're confused, just remember that there is a little button here that you can there's a little explanation here, I should say, about what a video lesson looks like, how to make it play, how to pop it into full screens because it's small. The labs have a lot of questions you need to answer and buttons you need to press before they launch. This is an explanation. It is documentation of how you are going to do a lab. And then if you pick the one with software installed, it looks like this. And here's a little map that shows you what all the things are. If you pick the in-browser lab option, so no software installed, same task, it's going to look a little different. It's going to look like this. So this is really just a resource to refresh your memory. I don't want to go through this right now because I'm going to take you through an actual lab and show you how they work. When you finish the lab, you get a little score sheet. Workbook assignments are going to look like this. Again, here's that shared Google folder where you can go to the file that they ask for and you can download it. So if you're wondering, I don't think I remember how to do that, it's all listed here for you. And post-domain assessments run a lot like a lab. They're just bigger. So you'll have the same choice. Do I have the software installed or am I going to work in a browser? So that's the choice that you make at the beginning. And then after that, it looks kind of like this. And again, all the stuff is here. It explains how to do it. So this is nothing you need to memorize. This is just a resource for if you run into an assignment and you're like, I don't quite remember how to do that. There's a little overview of all of those geometrics assignments right here. The next button here is called Other Assignments. And there are only 2 other kinds of things that you'll have to do over the course of the curriculum. And one is participate in a discussion board. And that's just when you get to the end of a domain, we're going to ask you to go to a little discussion board and just have a little conversation with your fellow students about what you learned. There'll be some kind of prompt that you need to answer and then respond to a few other students' comments and you'll be ready to go. Now you guys, because you are the first batch of students that we're running through this new curriculum, there may not be other comments or other student posts yet for you to respond to. So if you are the lucky one who gets there first, you just get to write a post and you don't have to respond to anybody because no one else is there yet. So don't be alarmed if you get there and there's nothing there. You might be the first one. Context projects. This is the other kind of assignment that we talked about. That's that third step of the learning process, right? You're going to watch the skills videos. You're going to practice in the labs and those assessments. And then the last thing is a context project, which means you're going to take all those new skills that you've learned and you're going to apply them to some kind of real life employment situation. So the way that a context project works is it's very much like any other skill that you're going to practice with here at Metro East. You're going to watch a video or read an article that's going to introduce the new concept or skill that we're going to want you to do. So if we're going to have you say, use your new skills to format a resume, we might have you read a few articles or watch a few videos about how to put a good resume together. Under practice, we're going to say, okay, here is a sample resume. It is unformatted. Why don't you use your new word skills to make it awesome? You will always get a rubric. A rubric is a grid that says, here's what you need to have on your paper. Here's a skill you need to show me. You're going to get all the points if you show me this much. You're going to get 75% of the points if your work meets these standards. You're going to get 50% of the points if your work meets these standards. So it's going to tell you exactly what needs to be included in your project, exactly which skills we're looking for you to demonstrate, and how they need to look to get full points. So you will complete the assignment according to the rubric. Just set of expectations that we will give you before you even start. These two are new in terms of our learning process. The revise step. So for a context project, we figured this is going to be kind of a bigger project than a regular assignment. It's not going to be like a research paper where it's going to take you weeks. It's like a couple of hours of work. So we're going to have you hook up with a peer, someone else in the program, a fellow student, and ask them to review your work, to give you a peer review, give you some feedback. They will have the rubric too, so they'll know where the target is. They'll look at your work, they'll compare it to the rubric, and they'll offer you a few pieces of constructive criticism. You did a great job on this. I think it would be nice if like some of your bullet points were a little bit ragged. They weren't all fully aligned. So maybe pay attention to that. I caught a spelling mistake. Your line spacing was, this, that, or the other thing. 2, 3, 4 suggestions. You get it back. You revise your work according to the feedback, and you get to decide what's good feedback and what's not good feedback. And then when you've polished up your work to a high shine, you think every single point on the rubric, you've earned them, then you submit your work for grading. And then I or Grace or Carly will review your work against the rubric and we'll grade your work and we'll get it back to you. Typically, we like to see students earn 75% of the points. So if it's a 16-point project, you're going to need 12 points or more to pass. None of that's a secret. It's all in the assignment. That is the only that's the only thing that you are going to turn in for a grade to us over the course of the your time with us. There are 3 context projects in Word. The first one is revising or formatting a cover letter. The second one is formatting a resume. And the third one is creating a graphic, what we call a graphic resume or a brag sheet. And it's just using Word's graphic design tools to create a little flyer talking about how awesome you are. Those are the 3 projects that you'll get to do over the course of our time together. And you should, the assignment should be pretty clear about how it works. But if you have any questions at the time, you are more than welcome to reach out, especially on your first one. Some people are a little hesitant. So don't hesitate to reach out and we can help really support you through that first process. So that is a context project. So then the next thing is going to take you directly into your first assignment. So I'm going to go quickly back to the course modules here. Oh, no, I'm in the student view. That's fine. So that you can see where we are. So in the getting started, there was that first little, here's where you download the things. There was that little quiz we took. Here are the 2 pages that just really go over the different kinds of assignments that you're going to see and how to do them, how to interpret the screens. Right now, we are here. We are getting ready to jump into domain 2, insert and format text, paragraphs, and sections. There are 2 lessons in this first one. It is an introduction. The first video assignment just tells you how the video assignments work, how everything is going to work. Then there's a workbook assignment that is optional, and then you'll dig into the real content of this domain. So let's do this one together so you can see how it works. So I click on the first lesson in domain 2, and it's going to open up this screen for me. Okay, now depending on the size of the screen that you're working on, you may end up with a big screen like this, or you may end up with the names of the videos underneath your screen. But all in all, you're going to see a video window over here, and you're going to see a list of the videos that are going to play over here. The nice thing about this is that these are the 4 videos that you need to watch to do this lesson. They will autoplay. So you don't need to play one, then the next one, then the next one, then the next one. They will all play in a row. In order to get them to start playing, you just click this play button in the upper right corner. Here's what, for me, best practices is, I click the play button. Hello. And I'm going to pause that real quick. You'll notice these controls are exactly like what you might expect in YouTube or any video player that you use. You know, you've got your go back button, your play button or your pause button, your go forward button, your volume controls. You've got your progress slider right here. And then you've got your speed. You can adjust the speed faster or slower if she's talking too fast or too slow for you. You've got your closed captions button if you want to see the words scroll on the screen as she's speaking. That is really helpful for some learning styles. This button right here, though, is my favorite. It is the full screen button. I click it, and this is going to let me watch my video full screen. You can rewatch the skills videos as many times as you wish. You just use the little buttons here to click them, to select them, and then you can watch again. So if you get to the end of the unit and you take the little domain and assessment and you're like, ooh, I was a little weak on fill in the blank, you can go back into the module, find those videos, and watch them again as many times as you want. Once you're done watching the videos, you'll pop out of full screen and you'll just click the next button to go to the next assignment. And in this case, it's a student workbook. So those first few videos were called the introduction because they really just show you how the course is going to work. And they offered a few foundational skills that you need to know before you can progress, right? Starting a new document, entering a few lines, saving the document. A workbook assignment looks like this, and it is literally a page from that downloadable student workbook file. So all this asks you to do here, let me scroll down a little bit. This is just another version of the exercise that you just completed or you just watched them complete in the skills video. This says, hey, your turn now. Let's start a new blank document in Word. So you open Word and you select the blank document option, and then you are going to add your name, type your address, add your city, state, zip, skip a line, and then on the second line, address the cover letter to a hiring manager. If you don't know the name of the hiring manager, begin with to whom it may concern. And below that, add an introductory sentence to the cover letter, like, my name is Susan Seiferth, and I'm applying for a job that you advertised in the newspaper. You know, and then save the project named 210 Word finished in that student folder. So if I were going to do this, I'd say, okay, I'm going to open Word. And let me grab my Word and bring it over. In fact, I'll close that. I'll save that. And so I want to open Word, right? I'm going to complete this assignment. And so here's Word. And it says to create a new blank document. Okay, done. There's my new blank document. Now what? Well, now add your name on the first line. Okay. Add your address. Any street, any town, Minnesota, 55555. And then it says what? Finish with your postal code, skip a line, and then address to a covering manager, okay? Whoops. So I skip a line. Dear hiring manager, I am looking for a job. And then save the project as a docx file named 210 Word finished in the student folder, okay? So I go to File, I go to Save, I go to Browse, find my desktop, I find the student folder, and what did it say I want to call it? Word 211, what did it say? 210 Word finished, okay? So I'm going to call it 210 Word finished, and it's a docx file. I hit Save, and then I'm done. I proved that I can create a new document, I can edit it, I can save it. And then we scroll all the way down, and that's it. Now, if you look down here at the bottom, this tells you that we are on page 8 of the student workbook in the domain 2 section. So if for whatever reason you want to access these workshop files or these workbook files in that big document that we had you download, you could always find them by the page number, just like that. So if you get a workbook assignment, they are typically optional. They are just repeats of the lab, but there they are for you. They tell you what you're going to do, and they just offer some reinforcement of the skills you just learned in the lab. So in the introduction, we watched a video about how the class is going to work. They gave us a workbook assignment that said, just make sure, bare bones here, that you know how to start a new document, type some stuff into it, and save it, right? That's our foundation. We're going to go from there. Once you're done with that, you'll click next, and it's going to take you to our first real lesson, a video lesson about inserting text and paragraphs. There are 2 videos in here that you'll watch, one on finding and replacing text, one on inserting symbols and special characters. We're not going to watch it right now. What I want to do is move on to the lab so you can see how one of those works. So I'm going to click next to move on to the lab. So once you've watched some skills videos, the first time you get a lab assignment, it's going to do this for you. It's going to say, all right, this tool needs to be loaded in its own browser window because you want to have the full screen to devote to it. So you click this button to go ahead and load Word, or to load the lab. Notice it's going to load in a new browser tab over here. The first thing it's going to ask you is to make that choice. Do you have the software downloaded on your machine, both Office and that geometric software? If the answer is yes, you can choose this option that says the SMS is required. That means I've got 2 different softwares downloaded, Microsoft Office and Geometrics. If you don't have those loaded, you're going to use this one, the in-browser app. I'm going to show you that one first. So you just click on it and you select. And I've taken this one already before, so you can always redo a lab by clicking retake test. First time you take a lab, though, it's going to look like this. So there's going to be a test runner up here in the top. These are the instructions. And then here is the practice document that you're working on below. Now, here's the thing you need to know about working in the in-browser app or the in-browser lab is that this looks like Word, but it's not actually Word. This is just a screenshot of Word that's been programmed to behave like Word. So if you click in the right place, the right things are going to happen. The right menus will pop up. The right choices will be available. If you click in the wrong place, it's going to tell you that's the wrong place. So our first task, this is the button where you could say, I want to go back to the previous task, or I hosed this one up beyond belief. I want to start fresh. I just messed it up. Can I please have a fresh copy? That's the reset button. Over here, we have the skip this question button, and we have the next button to take me on to the next task in the lab. I also have a mark for review, meaning I don't want to do this right now, but I might want to come back to it. In here, you have a list of the lab tasks. You can save this lab and come back to it for later. You can adjust the size of your font, and you can get a little help. So those are kind of your controls up here. This here is your first task. Notice this says 1 of 2. There are only 2 tasks in this lab. And the skills videos that we watched just before this should have shown us how to do this lab. Now, bear in mind, we didn't actually watch those skills videos, but we did, sorry, we didn't watch those skills videos, so this might look new to you. That's totally fine. Alexandria just rejoined us. I'll catch you up in just a second. Thank you for coming back, though. So we are looking at the how to complete the labs right now. So this first task says to replace the instances of the phrase your company with the phrase Uptown Athletic Club. Close any open dialog boxes when you're done. So here is my little simulation of Word. And I know that if I want to replace some things, I'm going to be on the Home tab. And I'm going to come over here to the editing group. And I'm going to click the replace button. The videos will have shown you all this, of course, right? So I click replace. And where it says find what, I'm going to say your company. And the instructions were to replace it with Uptown Athletic Club. So I'm going to click here. I'm going to say Uptown Athletic Club. And I'm going to replace all of them. So I click the replace all button. And it says all done. We made 1 replacement. I'll say OK. Now, it says in the instructions, I have to close any open dialog boxes when I'm done. So here's my thing. I would click the close button. That's legit, right? However, I'm going to click the close button and you can see what happens because this is not actual Word. This is a screenshot that's been programmed to act like Word. So I click the close button and it says, now select the X to close the dialog box. It wants me to click that instead. So in the in-browser, like if this were fully featured Word, I could click there or I could click here. In this case, it just wants me to click the X. Okay, so I click the X. Now I'm finished with this task. And it says that lab is complete. So now I have to come up here to click the next button to go on to task 2 of 2. So I click next and it says, hey, your answer is right. Here's how we would do that. We would select the editing drop-down arrow. We would click replace. We would type this. We would go here. We would type that. We'd click this. So it really gives you a lot of support. The first time you try to answer a question, it's going to let you guess and click around. But as soon as you're done, it's going to say, hey, good job. Here's how, here was the right answer. Here's all the click steps. So if you wanted to, you could go back and do it again right now, or you can move on to your next. I'm going to move on to the next one. There's only 2 questions in this lab. It's a pretty short one. 2 of 2. Insert a trademark symbol after the text Moflex. So I'm going to come on down here and find Moflex. There it is. And I'm going to click into the document, put my cursor right there. In order to insert a symbol, the trademark symbol, I'm going to have to go to the Insert tab. And I'm going to move over to the Symbols group here. And I'm going to choose Symbol again. And I'm going to choose the trademark symbol. But, well, there it is. Trademark, right? Popped it in there. And as soon as I put that in there, it's like lab complete. Good job. I got to the end of what I needed to do. So when I hit next, it's going to show me the steps that I should have taken. So it's not going to keep secrets from you, right? It's not going to be a mystery. If you did it right, you did it right. If you did it wrong, here's the steps. It shows you what to do. When you're done with all of the options or all the tasks in the lab, you just click finish. And then you get a little review screen that says you answered all of them. They are correct. If you wanted to, it'll show you ones that are not answered, ones that were marked for review, and ones that were answered. You can go back to any of them at any time and just review them, do them again, or you can finish. I'm going to finish. And it takes me to my little screen that says, hey, I passed. Yay. And then I can move on to the next thing. If you want to retake the whole lab, there's a button here. You can review any missed questions here. You can print your results here. So that's just your finish screen. When you're done, you close this tab. You come back to this screen. And now this screen is saying, hey, you already loaded this lab in a new browser window. If you wanted to reload the screen using this button and click the button again and go back into the lab and work again, you could. But when you're done, you can just come down here and click the next button to move on to the next thing. However, I want to show you what the other version of the lab looks like. So I'm going to refresh this. So now I get the load lab in a new window button again. I'll click that one. And now I've got this other option. Now I have Word 365 loaded on my machine, and I have the geometric software loaded on my machine. For whatever reason, though, it likes this other screen. So I'm going to go ahead and launch this, and then I'm going to switch my sharing screens real quick. So if you are doing it in the software, you click here, you say select, and I'm going to retake the test because I already did this lab. So when you're using the software, it's going to give you this screen. It's going to be like, hey, do you want to open the software? And I'm going to say yes. And it's going to tell me that I need to launch the test. Okay, so now do you see the lab again over here? Now this is upside down from the one that we just looked at, right? In fact, let me change my camera because now I'm looking at you guys. So can you see this screen over here with the Word document at the top and the instructions at the bottom? Okay, so this is what it looks like when you do the lab with the downloaded software. So this now, instead of being a programmed picture of Word, this is actual Word. This is my Word install with their file open inside it. And here are the instructions. It's called the test runner down at the bottom. And it's the same content. It says in the home tab in the editing group, Like you're going to replace the instance of the phrase your company with the phrase Uptown Athletic Club. Same thing. Couple of differences. First, all the instructions are right down here. So if you don't want to see them, if you want to practice, test yourself, don't look at them. Just try to do the work first. If you want the support, it's right there. So I'm going to click up here and I'm on the home tab in the replace group, and I can type in your company and I can replace it with Uptown Athletic Club, and I'll replace all. And it goes all, it makes the replacements. I say, okay. Now, this time I'm just going to use the close button, and I can do that because this is actual Word, right? So now that one's done, but it doesn't give me that lab complete automatically. I have to go down here to this corner and say, grade this question, grade the current question. And then it'll look at what I did and it'll tell me how I did. Replacing text, correct. And for whatever reason, I can't move this dialog box. It's really low. So I'm going to say continue to the next question. So now here's my next question. Insert a trademark symbol after the MoFlex text so that it looks like this. Same thing, right? So I scroll on down to MoFlex and I click here. And I go to the insert tab and I go to the symbols. Now here's the thing that where you get in the weeds a little bit when you use your own software. There are two versions of the trademark symbol. It wants the tiny one. I've learned this through trial and error. So it gets a little, there are lots of options in your actual software that don't exist in the in-browser option. So just kind of be aware. So I'm going to click that one. And then I'm going to say, yep, grade that question. And it is correct. I say continue. And now I'm at the end here. And it tells me, just like the other lab, how many I did, how many I got correct. And then down at the bottom, I can cancel the test summary window. I can click on one of these and go to it. I can save my test without finishing, or I can just finish my test. So I'm going to finish my test and say, yep, I'm done. Okay. Sometimes it just takes me back here. It doesn't give me that results page that I want. Let me turn my video back to where it should be. There we go. All you do here is you close this button, and then you come back here and you can reload the page and relaunch the lab. And when you choose the SMS required, that's when it will give you this results page that you're used to seeing. So not that you didn't know what your results were already, you don't have to do this, but if you're wondering where that is, that's how it works. So then I'll close this tab and I'll move on to the next assignment, which is a student workbook assignment. Again, optional. It is a fill in the blank, or you can also download this cover letter and you can do the same work that we did in the lab on the downloaded cover letter. Just reinforcement for what you were learning in the videos. A lot of people like to watch the videos with the worksheets open so they can fill in blanks. Totally up to you. Just, again, reinforcement. So in general, I'm going to go back to the home tab here, or the home page. I'm going to view it as a student. So in general, that's how you're going to progress through the course. I'm going to go back to the course modules here real quickly and remind you that MO100 Getting Started, these are all just introductory bits and pieces with your Getting Started checklist, how to do these assignments if you feel like you're lost. Where you want to begin is here with those Word 2019 Domain 2 Lesson 1. Those are those videos we just watched. Then move on to the student workbook, and then you just begin working your way through these. There are 4 lessons in Domain 2. Each one of them, aside from the introduction, has a video lesson, a lab, and a workbook option. Domain 2 Lesson 3, those are the videos. There's your labs. There's your workbook option. Lesson 4, videos, labs, workbook option. And then there's a Domain 2 post-assessment. And that is like the one lab that wraps up all the skills together. Instead of being 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 questions, it's like 25 questions. And it really gives you an opportunity to gauge what really stuck and what kind of flew away, right? What you need to reinforce before you move on. Once you're done with that one, once you pass it, there's your discussion board. Then you get to your first context project. I'll go ahead and pop into this context project real quick so you can see it. So a context project looks like this. The first one is a cover letter, and it is an opportunity to format a cover letter using your new job skills. So the first thing you're going to do is watch some videos. There's my dog. You hear my dog? My daughter has decided she's home from school, and instead of opening the garage door, she's going to ring the doorbell, drive the dog crazy. So that's fun. I'm glad you're all here for this. Okay, so the watch piece. We're just going to watch some videos that give you some instruction on crafting a good cover letter. There's the link right there. You watch these parts, and then it tells you when to stop. It tells you not to download the template that the videos talk about. And then we'll give you a cover letter for this assignment. You do not need to present your own cover letter or your own resume or any of that. We will always give you a tool to work on because we want the focus to be on your Microsoft skills. And if we said, bring in your own cover letter or bring in your own resume, work on those, people get sidetracked into the content. Oh, I need to polish this up, or that's not correct, or I need to fix this or fix that. Nope. If you're working on a stranger's dummy cover letter, just, blank, you don't worry so much about what's in it. You worry about how to format it. And that's what we want you thinking about. So you'll download a sample cover letter that you're going to work on, and you'll download the rubric. Now, the rubric is what I mentioned before. It gives you all this information about how a cover letter should be constructed, how to format it, and how we're going to score it. So you're going to download the cover letter, you'll download the rubric. You will review them both very carefully, and the rubric will tell you what to do. Your job is to read the cover letter carefully, examine the document formatting. What kind of font are they using? What size are they using? What's the line and paragraph spacing like? What are the margins like? How are they laying this out? And then you're going to use the rubric to determine how to fix the cover letter so that it meets the standards that the rubric sets out. So you're going to be using your new word skills to choose a better font, choose a better font size, change the margins, change the layout, make sure that the cover letter has all the pieces it's supposed to have. You'll make the necessary changes, you'll save your work. The next step is revise. At that point, now that you've edited the cover letter, you're going to reach out to your fellow students and get some feedback. So you can use the Zoom loops for that. You can bring your work to a learning circle and we can do a group review. There's lots of ways to do peer reviewing, lots of information here about how to do a review. There's a little video you can watch, how to ask for a peer review, what happens when you get someone who volunteers, what's the volunteer supposed to do, what am I supposed to do with the feedback I get? Like, it is all here for you. So you don't need to worry too much about how it all works. By the time you get there and you read through this, you'll be like, oh my gosh, Susan is extremely thorough. She has covered all the bases. I tried to. However, if you get there and you're still a little confused and you've got questions, do not hesitate. Grace, Carly, and I are here for you, and we can help clarify anything that needs clarification. But in general, you watch the videos, you take your swing at the cover letter according to the rubric, you reach out to a peer or you come to a learning circle with your work to get a little bit of feedback, and then you revise. And once you revise it and you're ready to submit, that is the next button here. And you just click the Start Assignment button and you upload your file. And it comes to us, we grade it, you move along. So that is pretty much what we have for you. You are just going to, like I said, come here every day. You're going to come down to the course modules. You are going to pick up where you left off in this list, and you are going to work all the way through the domains. So again, here's domain 1, 4 lessons, a post domain assessment, a discussion board, and a context project. Then you move on to domain 3, all about tables and lists. 3 lessons in this one, lesson 1, lesson 2, lesson 3. They all have labs, all have student workbooks. There's your post-domain assessment. There's your discussion board. You move on to domain 4. And remember, domain 4, tiny, like 5 to 10% of the test questions. Not much in there. Only 2 lessons in there, right? Student workbook, post-domain assessment, discussion board, and then you get your next context project because 3 is little and so is 4. So we smushed them together. And then you'll do domain 5 and 6. 4 lessons in domain 5, just 2 lessons in domain 6. And then we throw the last domain in there. And then the last thing you do is the context project. And then there's a little course review. Now notice right at the end of domain 6, so right before you jump into that last big domain, we have schedule a practice test here. I'm going to go ahead and click on that so you can see it. What this means is some curricula have a practice test kind of baked in there. We don't do that. We got a good deal on buying a boatload of actual tests. And so we encourage our students to take a practice swing on the real deal. So when you're nearing the end of your curriculum, we encourage you to sign up for your first test. Even if you're not quite done yet, that's okay. It's really helpful to our students to learn how to study, to learn what the test is going to be like if they take that practice swing first. We do not expect you to pass. That's not the expectation for that first test. That first test is about getting in there and having a look around. And this is going to sound strange, but Grace can back me up on this. It's also about controlling your urge to panic. If any of you are like me, you'll remember like 2nd, 3rd, 4th grade when you ran into that first hard test and you realized you didn't know the answers. And there's a real panic response that like jumps up inside people. I've had people try to leave the room, like literally try to get away. Like, okay, calm down. It's okay. It's just a test. So that first test, we really try to set the expectation that you are not supposed to pass. Taking that first test is just another way to study. It gives you a framework for how you're supposed to apply your knowledge. So when you get in there, you take that first test, the clock starts ticking. And once you see that clock ticking in the corner, like half of what you know just flies out of your head and you spend a couple of minutes just spinning your wheels. Like we like to get that one out of the way before it counts, right? And that's okay. That's really natural. That's common. But what we encourage people to do is once you stop panicking, take a look around. Click through the test questions, get a feel for how complicated they are, how long they take, right? 50 minutes, 35 questions. You're not going to be able to spend more than a minute, minute and a half on each question. So you got to keep that pace going. So that it's not intuitive. You have to kind of think your way through that. So once you get toward the end of the curriculum, we encourage you to schedule that practice test and then take it as soon as you can. And then even if you take it before you're done with the curriculum, that's okay, because it's really going to inform how you study. So get that first one out of the way, get an idea of what you're good at and what you need to reinforce some more. And then that kind of helps you figure out how to finish up, what you need to study, how to use those additional weeks. Remember, like we gauge about 6 to 8 weeks for getting through the curriculum through a certificate. If there's 6 domains here and 2 of them are pretty skinny, and we give you 6 weeks to get through all 6 of them, that's a domain a week. That's only 4 lessons, 3 lessons, a week. That still gives you 2 weeks at the end to restudy and rethink and target the parts of the curriculum that you need to strengthen. So schedule that test, get it out of the way, figure out what you need to do, and then we'll make a plan and you target your time toward passing that test. So there's a how do I schedule a test? There's a sign-up sheet. The link is baked right in. You click right here. And then I'm going to go back to the modules real quick because I do want to show you when it's real test time. So that schedule a practice test is just baked in right there, kind of casually, like you finish your discussion board and you think you're moving on to domain, like the last domain, and all of a sudden there's like, hey, schedule a test. And you're like, I'm not done yet. Promise, it's there for a reason. Once you get through that last domain and that last context project, there's a wrap up and review right here. This wrap up and review is where you are going to schedule your exam, like the first one you really think you might try to pass. Same sign up sheet, same everything. So you're going to make a study plan, which is just thinking about how that first test turned out, that practice test. Where were you strong? Where did you need to shore things up a little bit? There's another link to that skills list with the domains and how they're weighted, so you can remember like where's the most efficient place to put your study time. And once you've developed a plan, it's time to work your plan. Down here, we've got a whole list of test prep resources that you can use. Some videos that you might want to watch. We also have some downloadable practice files that you can use. So what people tell me is that they can do the labs and they can do the workbooks until the cows come home. But once you've done it once or twice, the effect wears off. You already know how to do it that way. And so repeating the same exercises again and again isn't necessarily that helpful. So what these are are some fresh practice exercises that really kind of encapsulate all of the domains and all of the skills and give you another fresh chance to work on them. So if you took the practice test and you're like, I knocked domain 2, 3, and 5 out of the park, I need to work on domain 1, 4, and 6. Maybe you come in here and you download the practice file for domain 1, and then you do that as best you can, and then you watch the answer key, and you can see an instructor do that work so that you can compare how you did it to how they did it, and then try to resolve any differences. So there's a lot of good stuff in here once you get to the end and you're trying to figure out how I practice. So we have about 5 minutes left. I know I ran through that. Again, drinking from a fire hose, it's a lot. Is there anything immediately, like right now, that I can answer for you or clear up for you or help out with?